attack.
14 साल में भारतीय सेना पर सबसे बड़ा आतंकी हमला.
I'm sure the Prime Minister's office would have given clearance.
Okay.
Same thing with Balakot. Balakot is another
Big thing.
very, very big thing. That was the first time Indian Air Force crossed the,
Even in Kargil we did not cross
we didn't cross.
border.
But here they crossed and see, dil chahiye bahut bada. Endurance to go all the way to Pakistan and come back. But they were towed by Indian war vessels.
Okay.
And let loose about 50 nautical miles, 60 nautical miles short of Pakistan. And thereafter they created havoc. They fired their missiles. 5 of the Pakistani warships and merchant vessels were sunk in the harbour. Karachi was burning for 3 days. That mayhem which was done, the shock and awe which Indian Navy created became world history. And they were all geared up because such kind of operations we always look forward to. So we are always 24/7 ready. And within 8 hours, these aircraft came on top, and then they did the MARCOS through their boats and did skydive.
My guest today is Commodore Vijaypal Singh Rawat. He's an ex-MARCOS and is considered one of the legends there. He was the longest serving principal director of special operations and diving. MARCOS or Marine Special Commandos are highly trained and a unit of Indian Navy which are supposed to do very extreme critical operations. They are just best of the best. They are mostly involved in very critical and confidential operations. But one thing that we are aware of is their involvement in 26/11 Mumbai attack, where they were used primarily in the first stage itself, and they were the first ones to face and eliminate some terrorists. So let's hear from the man himself and welcome him to the show. Welcome to the channel, sir. It's an honor to meet somebody from the armed forces and especially from the elite forces like MARCOS. And this episode is going to be very useful for the audience to understand firsthand how the armed forces work, and not just through some movies, singing and dancing officers and all, love stories, right? So I think this episode is going to really motivate people to join the armed forces, know more about forces, and have a little more pride in the country. So welcome to the channel again.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the channel, and I'm sure that there will be some good discussions we'll have, which will be of great value to at least your viewers.
Before we start with the Navy part, I would like to know something about your childhood. What inspired you to join the army? How was your childhood? How were you in studies and all?
So actually in our times, I'm talking about the 60s and the 70s, the trend was, parental pressure used to be there, and, of course, the peer group pressure was also there. So there was a tremendous amount of, pressure in our house for the boys to join the armed forces, because my father was in the Navy and my grandparents both were in the army. And we were staying in the naval base, and you see your classmates and your other colleagues, everybody's parents were also there in the Navy. So it was but natural that you get that kind of vibes. And so even if I don't say it's parental pressure, but there were vibes there, and the atmosphere was very conducive for you to join the armed forces.
Okay.
And that is the reason I chose the Navy and joined the armed forces.
So you had inclination towards the Navy itself?
See, because all around I saw the ships, and I saw naval clearance divers doing training. So you do get motivated. I saw the aviators flying the helicopters, flying the aircrafts, and also obviously there was a lot of interest generated. Army, had I been in an army unit or in a cantonment, perhaps I would have chosen the army. But being in the Navy all throughout, I thought that's something would have got into my psyche. And that's the way. Also, otherwise, my elder brother was in the army, and he was saying that I think it's better to join the Navy because he thought army life is tougher. But now everyone knows that naval life is equally tougher, perhaps more.
I'm sure Navy is really blessed to have you serving there. Any instance from your childhood that you would like to recount? Any funny incident or anything?
Oh, there were many. Actually, we were, of course, we have total 5 brothers and sisters, but elder sister was 10 years older to me. So there's a lot of gap. So we don't know. We cannot really connect. And the elder brother was in the boarding school, so he was hardly available at home. So we had three of us. My sister, another elder sister who was just 1 year older to me, and she was my classmate, and my younger brother who was 4 years younger to me. So 3 of us have largely stayed together. So a lot of issues at home, masti kafi hoti thi ghar mein. So there was one incident where, we were staying in National Defense Academy. We had a beautiful garden. My father is to ensure that, gardens have got a lot of flowers and, all this kind of thing which are required to beautify the place. So we had this dahlia plants, and dahlia, as you know, is a big flower. It looks very nice. So it actually blooms in the morning, blooms in the morning. So we used to see that in the evening we used to count ki these 3-4 dahlias are not going to bloom. Next day morning, we'll see it, and then suddenly in the morning we find is missing. So those are the days we were actually motivated by reading famous Five, Secret Seven,
Yeah.
Enid Blyton, those novels. So we thought we'll do something. We'll have to resolve the mystery.
The detective kind of a
Detective
mindset.
kind of stuff, yeah. So we tried doing that, and we even tried to climb the terrace of our flat, our bungalow, to just to keep a watch at night as to what is happening. So we did try that, and we didn't. Nothing came about of that. So next day morning, we saw this. The doodwala came, and he pressed the doorbell, and my mother opened this because my father had gone for physical training of the cadets in the morning. And the doodwala came and delivered the doodh in the milk can. And when he left, the flowers were missing.
Oh,
So we washed 2-3 times, and then we homed on. This could be perhaps the lead. And then one day we actually had near the window, we're sitting at that 5-6 the time slot in the morning, and we caught him red-handed. So that is one funny incident of childhood.
so you
which
had
is-
these instincts from the childhood itself, right?
Yeah.
I would like to know in detail about what are MARCOS, how is it different from the Indian Navy, and from aspirants' perspective, right? What is required to be in MARCOS if they want to target that kind of a career?
Okay, so like Marine Commando is a special operational element of the Indian Navy. Like we have the Para SF in the Army, and we also have the Garuds in the Air Force. So Marine Commando is a special operating element of the Indian Navy. Now, the people who are in the Marine Commando are all drawn from the Navy, both officers and sailors, and they are on voluntary basis. So this is how we have this entity called Marine Commandos. Unlike the other special forces, where they largely operate in 3 dimensions, the Marine Commandos operate in 4 dimensions. We have the dimension of air for doing the skydiving and parachuting, also slithering, abseiling to come to the target. Then we have the land medium, which is common to everyone. Then we have the water medium for transiting from place A to place B on using the water medium and doing operations on board a war vessel or on board a merchant vessel if it is taken over by terrorists, or if there is a hostage situation, or the oil rigs and all. So there we use the water medium. Then we also use the underwater medium because all of us are qualified clearance divers, and we go underwater with bombs and limpet mines and all to the enemy territory, and underwater and all the enemy floating assets like ships, minor war vessels, or even their oil rigs and all, we can destroy. So there are 4 dimensions. That is only subtle difference between Army, Navy, and Air Force Special Operation Forces. Coming to the Navy itself, there are so many specializations within the Navy. Like you have aviation, you have submarines, you have general service, which largely man the ships, warships. Then you have the Marine Commandos who are special operations. Then you also have the clearance diving officers, mine clearance diving officers. And I was qualified. I was qualified in that before I became the Marine Commando. So then, all these specializations are voluntary basis, and they do distinct tasking they have as compared to other sailors and officers in the Navy. But the long and short is that every officer and every sailor in the Navy, be it from any specialization, has to eventually come on board the aircraft, come on board the war vessels to serve if they want to get promoted.
Okay. And any special qualities or characteristics that the aspirants should have, right, if they are targeting to get into Navy? Any suggestions for them?
See, now the qualification for the Navy is an all-India exam, and the minimum qualification is that you have to be 18 years old and less than 21 years old, both for officers and sailors. And then for the sailors, you have to be class 12 in science subjects, qualified, and with 60% marks in physics and mathematics. And so this is the basic qualification for the sailors. Officers, if they are going through NDA, this is the same qualification, but there is no qualification of percentage of marks because they all appear through the UPSC exam, where there is no percentage. You should be just pass in class 12th. And then you also have officer entry at graduation level. So the sailor entry is only restricted to that younger days, but the officers entry are basically 2 types. So you have to be physically fit, and you have to qualify, crack the exams, get into then do the physical activity, then also get into medicals, clear a medical medical examination, you clear, and then there's a merit list made, and thereafter you join the Navy, Army, or the Air Force. Now, once you join the Navy, then you have a choice, after doing a basic training, which could be for officers is 1 year, for sailors is 6 months, then you could volunteer for any specialization which I told you. You could go for aviation, you could go for submarine. So, in my case, I volunteered for the Marine Command, for the mine intelligence diving, which is a specialization by itself, and I served in that for about 2.5 years. Then I volunteered for the Marine Commandos, and then eventually I became Marine Commando. So that's the trajectory which everyone takes if you want to join the special forces in the Navy.
Okay. So I think a lot of people are aware about the physical endurance that is required to get into the forces. But what I know is that there's special psychological tests also that happen in the process of the selection, right? So is there any traits there that people should be aware of, like to be very observant or to be very risk taking or risk averse, or whatever kind of qualities that people need to have or develop in themselves?
See, for anybody to join the armed forces, you have to be physically very robust, mentally very tough. So that is, LCM, lowest common denominator for everyone to join the armed forces. When you talk about the special forces, then you are a wee bit superior in all these activities. So physically, you have to be not only very robust, but you should be having the adaptability quotient. You should also have resilience. So now, if you are down and under, you should be able to fight back. That mentality you have to display. Then, of course, physically you have to be robust, and then you have to have that kind of camaraderie, bonhomie. That element of camaraderie, bonhomie is very, very important, because you are gelling in a small team, and you're doing operations against a larger body of men. So that's why unless you have that kind of interaction, better interaction, and the capability of to interact better with your team members, it becomes very difficult. I'll give you an example. When I was doing my Marine Commando course, there was one sailor. I won't name him. He was in the lingo of the Navy called shammer. In this sense that he won't do activities very well. He will try to come last in 1 mile run,
So
or
that person is called a shammer.
Shammer. We call it shammer in the army lingo. Shammer means the guy is not putting in his effort. Basically that. So the instructors used to say, okay, yeah, that guy, just go and four of you guys go and get him like a dead body. Like that, we should do it. So one day, the instructor asked him, why are you doing this? Because in your aptitude test, you did extremely well. You are actually coming first in some of the event. Now you're coming last. Why have you become such a laggard? So he said, no, it's not that. Don't challenge me, because I'm doing it on purpose. And then he was marched up to the commanding officer. Commanding officer warned him. He said, sir, I'll show you then tomorrow onwards. In every activity, like for example, 1 mile, he should run full speed ahead of all of us. And just short of the 1 mile finish point, he'll stop and sit. And he'll allow everyone to cross. And then he'll ask you, what is the timing for failure? For failing. Once the timing for failing is over, then he'll just walk inside. So like that he did. And obviously, see, this mentality, there's something wrong. Such kind of people are wonky. And definitely not team men. So he was removed from the course, despite being physically very fit. But I don't know what his mental resilience and his adaptability and factor.
What was the reason for him doing this? He was not interested in the armed forces?
Initially, he was very interested, and thereafter he became disinterested.
Okay.
For reasons best known to him.
Okay.
So there are people, have in all the organizations have people like that. But see, if you have 2-3 people in a body of 50 people, it is still manageable. But in a body of 6 to 8 people which are going for operation, if you have one person like that, it is detrimental to the success, and not only success, even to the safety of the people who are going for an operation. So we have to be very, very careful about that. There is no specific psychological training, which is psychological test which is carried out, to my knowledge. But the training induces so many tasking, which actually tests the psychological build-up of a person when he is in the special forces training. So that is the way it is.
Okay. So I'm sure, in the process of training itself, there would be a lot of difficult challenges. Would you like to elaborate a little on what kind of training do Navy people or MARCOS specifically go through to be really ready for the forces, and such kind of very difficult operations that these people do?
So like I told you that we operate in 4 mediums. So you need to do airborne training. For that, you have to go to paratrooper training school, which is in Agra, and you do that 21 days of course, and thereafter you do advanced course on skydiving. Then you have to do training on board helicopters for doing the slithering and rappelling. That is about the air medium. Now coming to the land medium, you have to be a real commando. For that, you have to be physically very fit, and you have to be able to do navigation by yourself using a compass or something, and without a map or star navigation by stars. You should be able to do long distance march. You should be able to run 20, 30 and 40 kilometer speed marches, which is timed run with 20 kg of your haversack and a 5 kg of rifle in a timed run.
Okay.
You should be able to do unarmed combat. You should be able to take your buddy and carry him in case something happens to the buddy. So all these things, plus you have to have field craft on how to fire weapons, how to do rapid firing, how to do roll and fire the weapon, and then leapfrogging and then firing weapon. And you should know all the weapon tactics, like how to use the SMG, this what you call automatic machine guns. For close quarter combat operation, you should know how to use the assault rifle. Then you should know how to use the light machine guns, medium machine guns, heavy machine guns, all this kind of stuff. So, and basically battlecraft you need to know. Then we come to the water medium. You should know how to operate a boat or a rigid hull inflatable boat. How to swim long distance, and when I say long distance, it's very long distance. All of us used to swim about 4 to 5 kilometers on surface almost every day as part of the training. And then you have to do underwater diving. So diving is one of the most technical stuff amongst the entire training. So there, you should be able to dive using various kind of diving sets, closed circuit diving set, air diving set, mixed gas diving set. You should be able to dive to a depth of 55 meters to defuse the sea mines which are planted by the enemy to actually destroy warships or any merchant vessel of our country. Then you should be able to go underwater swimming using a diving set about a couple of kilometers, and then plant the limpet mines on the enemy warships and destroy the warships. So these are the kind of activities you do. Now to do all these things, you have to have training. So to get the skill sets, everything which is related to how to get to that skill sets, so that you are able to do the activity which is asked of you. That is all is the training, basic as well as advanced training of the Marine Commandos.
Okay. I have a lot of questions on the aspect that you touched, but I'm going to come to them a little later in the deep dive session. But on the follow-up, I would ask you, what is the total duration of all these trainings?
So when I did my training, I first, as I told you, I volunteered for the Mine Trains Diving Officers course, which was a good about 8 months course.
Okay.
That is also physically very, very demanding, and mentally very, you have to be very strong if you have to do that course. It's again daily there is competition also. So that involves long runs, long swims, then underwater diving, and all the things which are there to pressurize a person and make him physically very fatigued. So once I did that, as part of the training, we had to do a short course of 35 days in Infantry School, Belgaum. There's a commando wing there, and we did that course. That's again a very good course. When I say very good means it's very interesting course. You don't sleep for more than 2-3 hours per day.
Okay.
Half the time you're staying in jungle, and it's quite physically very, very difficult. It's a buggery actually. So we did that as part of the mine clearance diving course. Thereafter, I volunteered for the Marine Commando course, and Marine Commando course in my time was 14 months.
Okay.
And then again, it's a repetition of what I did in Infantry School, Belgaum. It's a repetition of what we did in diving school. Plus, additional skill sets are taught. Plus, your special heliborne operations are taught. Then, of course, skydiving, parachuting, and all those things are taught. Operating on the oil rigs, how to do maritime intervention operations and all on board. If there is if the ship which has been taken over by terrorists or pirates, how to actually do the flushing out operation there. Those are the kind of things we do. Advanced diving skills we learn. So that is part of the Marine Commando course. But now what has happened is that we have compressed the entire thing into a good about 8 months of course.
Okay.
Which is the Marine Commando course.
Okay.
So which has got a distinct 1 month of the build-up phase, because people come from warships and all. Some people are not that physically fit, so they have to get everyone on the same platform, so that there is a transparency and good choices given to them whether they want to actually get into the course or not. So after 1 month of build-up phase, then we put through them the phase of the diving phase, which is about 2.5 months. And then we have to put them in the land phase, which is another 2.5 months. Then we put them in the special weapon and tactics phase, which is another 2.5 to 3 months.
Okay.
So this is altogether about 7 to 8 months of course.
7 to 8 months. Yeah. And are there people who, because of the very difficult level of these exercises, do people
Excuse me.
quit also?
Yes, people quit because the attrition rate, that is the number of people who are quitting vis-a-vis the number of people who are passing out, is about 25%. So you would say that in a course of 100, 75 people quit at some stage or the other.
Okay, 75%
Yeah,
people quit.
75% quit, and
Okay.
25% are the people who are retained, sometimes 30%.
So do these people go back to the regular army,
No,
navy units or
yeah,
army
they go
units?
back and then they volunteer for they actually opt for the the following course or something.
Okay.
So you can opt 3 times.
Okay.
So there are people who fail once or twice. See, failures. One is this is the clear that they are not physically very fit to do this course, or it is even if they are physically very fit, there is different physical fitness and mental resilience required to do this course. I mean, it's not necessary that athletes who are very physically fit are able to do this course. There are
Yeah.
people who are navy level swimmers or national level swimmers, at least in a college days or something. There are people who just give up in the very first day.
Okay.
So it is so a different kind of when I say physical fitness, of course, the basic benchmark is much superior to the normal physical fitness of the anybody in the armed forces for the special forces people. But it is your body should be able to take a lot of beating, and your mind should be so stable in all adverse condition. So that kind of mental resilience and ability for to adapt to any situation and bounce back. Now this is something which people who are physically very well endowed may not have. So that is what I'm trying to emphasize.
Okay. I think there's a lot of learning for common people also who I think get perturbed by very minute things in the office day-to-day life, right? To understand how people go through such extreme conditions and still bounce back, as you said. That is very good to know.
See, I'll give you another example. When I did my Marine Commando, when I did my Belgaum Commando course, so the people who join from the army, it's compulsory for all the infantry officers to do this course. Otherwise, you won't get promoted to the rank of captain. So they all come, and it's a course where everybody wants to do. Nobody wants to be returned back to unit without qualifying the course. And it's also an element of prestige. If you go back to units and they say, "Yaar, saab to fail ho kya hai," तो अच्छा लगता नहीं है. So the average age of the officer was 21, 22.
Okay.
When I went along with one of my other course mates, because we did a diving course and all, so we were about 24, 25 years old, and I was a course senior. So we had about 180 people, and I was the senior most. And of course, at the final analysis, I was fourth in merit out of 180 chaps. So there I found, initially first 2 days, everything was fine. They used to give me a lot of respect of being an officer senior to them and all. After, when the pressure started building, you could see people breaking down mentally.
Okay.
Not that they broke down; they all did the course. But I'm saying that there's a distinct difference in the mentality, the way they behaved with me, and the way they behaved with each other. I mean, they could get irritated if you touch them and they start shouting at you, getting disturbed, getting irritated. And then I realized that also the factor of age, maturity of age also is very important when it comes to mental resilience and mental built up. So we were 25, we had already undergone this rigorous training. They were 21, 22, and they may not have undergone this rigorous training other than their academy training.
Yeah.
So which may not be very comparable to what we had undergone. So that also makes a difference.
Okay. What is the day-to-day life of a Navy person if you are selected as a Marcos, right? Apart from the normal routine trainings that you do, what is the day-to-day life? Because forge and everything is not fought every day, right? So what do these people from special forces do?
So in the Navy, if you're talking Marine Commandos, the day started around 6 in the morning. So 6 to 7:30 in the morning, compulsory every day, there is physical training. That could be long shoots, long runs, climbing up and down the rope, doing a lot of push-ups, sit-ups. When I say a lot of push-ups, sit-ups, you're crossing about 500 push-ups and about 1,000 sit-ups in a period of 1 year. 1 hour, and then you're doing sometimes you also do swimming, which could be 1-2 miles. Then sometimes you're doing mud walking, mud crawl. Then they put you in sort of quicksand, which is right next to the shore, and you are actually knee deep in water. Knee deep in that water, and actually you're stuck in the quicksand. And you sort of crawl about 100, 150 meters, which is actually not very easy to do. Sometimes you do that. So overall, then you also have, you do physical, there is something called physical test. It's called PPT and battle physical evaluation test. BPET is called. So that test also done once in a week or once in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So basically, every day, 1.5 hour in the morning is dedicated to your physical build-up. And that also induces the element of team spirit. Then you go home and come back. Then thereafter, sometimes you do battle obstacle course where you have to use your weapon equipment with your pack and then do cross various obstacles and all, then do firing. But there's a lot of emphasis on firing in special operations.
Okay.
Because as compared to a normal soldier, a special operations person is much better in firing. And we don't unnecessarily fire when not required.
Okay.
There is a lot of discipline we have in firing. Although people in the armed forces have got a lot of discipline in firing, but here you have a more edge because you have been trained for that, and you may select it and then train for that, so it is further refined. So that firing happens, and in our case, we have room intervention drills, because if you do maritime intervention operations, it's like anti-terrorist operation in a small room. So you'd use submachine guns, then then you also do night training. Then sometimes you do day training, sometimes you do night training. I'm talking about the day training. So you use submachine guns, you use a gas mask, and you're entering a room, and in a buddy team, 10, 12 people in buddy of 2 each, and then going and clearing off each and every room, kicking the room and rolling and getting up, and you have targets there. They make a human cutout, only the head, red and green. So the red means enemy and the green means hostage. So you have to shoot only the red, and the rule is 4 seconds, 2 shots, and both the shots should hit the head.
Oh, okay.
So you get so much acclimatized to this kind of training, and your accuracy of firing increases. So you fire, you do 10 push-ups, pick up the weapon, and then they're given from the time you cock the weapon, you're given 4 seconds to fire.
Okay.
Then there was another room where you just enter the room, and they flash a picture for precisely 15 seconds. In the picture we'll have about 10-15 people, one guy with a pistol on the head of some hostage. You have to quickly identify in 15-20 seconds and shoot.
Okay.
And then they switch on the light and see tumne kisko mara hai. So like that. So this kind of training happens. This is called a kill house drill. We call it kill house. That's basically for honing your skill for doing maritime intervention operations and all, and also the room intervention operations. Thereafter, then we have some classroom sessions also, because new equipment gets inducted, a new VHF handset or HF set, or some other, like drones have come, so they will teach you about drones and all. Then afternoon again you do some classroom sessions. Evening it's compulsory you have to play games.
Okay.
Or you do unarmed combat, or you do karate, taekwondo, these things. And then night, once or twice in a week you may have night firing, again using night vision equipment. And thereafter you also do night navigation exercises. You do night navigation exercises using a small boats. You do diving operations, like you do almost every day. You dive for about 1 hour using your close combat diving set, simulating a target underwater. You're going underwater and then trying to destroy something. So this is perhaps the daily routine of a young Marine Commando officer in sailor. As you grow senior, of course, you can't do all those things. You have to also handle the office work. You also have to handle tactics and how to make SOPs and all this kind of stuff. Appreciation of a situation. You're making operational plans and all those nice thing. So, but first 4-5 years of your service in the Marine Commando is very, very exhilarating, because when you get to know all those things, you feel like a James Bond.
Yeah.
And then as you grow senior, then you feel like you're like Jurassic.
So I think you already touched upon the part I was going to ask you next is about the emphasis of studies in these trainings, right? So a lot of technology is changing, a lot of advanced systems are coming in. So a continuous curriculum of these things are involved, are included in the army itself, right?
Yeah, actually, what
in the
happens?
Navy.
Yeah, so in the 3 services, you have you have career advancement courses, and for every course you have to undergo a lot of academic rigor, and so that is one. Talking about the Marine Commando per se. So for the sailor, there are 3-4 stages of promotional courses they have to do. And for officer also, you have to do 1 or 2 courses, because you have to go to ships also. Then you also have to thereafter go for a staff college, which for the master's degree. All these are promotional in courses. But more than that, is that when you are in the Marine Commandos, you do a lot of cross training with the special forces of the army, maybe also the Garuds. Then you also cross-train with the US Navy SEALs and the French Special Forces, the British Special Forces, and Sri Lankan Special Forces, the Japanese Special Forces. We do Russian Special. Every year we do at least training with 2-3 Special Forces of the other countries. Now they all bring in their own SOPs. They bring in their own tactics. They bring in their own experiences and all. So those have to be now learned. So it's a continuous learning process, just to refine and hone your skill. So you refine your skill, you hone your skill, and you also have to consolidate your skill. So this is the ongoing process, iterative process, because you just can't make a full stop. You have to be agile, mentally agile. Then there is induction of new weapons, induction of new techniques, induction of new, like for example, I gave you example, satellite navigation equipment, your different kind of GPS, underwater GPS, underwater scooters, underwater UAVs, normal UAVs, bigger UAVs, smaller UAVs, swarm drones, all these kind of things are there now in the inventory of the special forces. There are much more which I can't really talk openly, because since I was at helm of Marine Commandos for almost 8 years, so a lot of procurement happened and is happening now also. So everything requires technology, and wherever there is technology involved, there is a lot of studies involved.
That's very settling to know as a citizen that we are technically very advanced, right? And I think comparable to very advanced navies and forces across the world, and we do a combat exercises with them also. How do we stand compared to other forces worldwide?
It's like this: man to man, we are all equal. The edge of our special operation forces is not only the individual human bravado, or how physically strong he is, how robust he is. It is more to do with the type of equipment he has got. Because एक तो equipment हो गया, like the kind of rifles he has got, the kind of night vision equipment he has got. Suppose he's got a night vision equipment which allows him to see only 100 meters at night. The enemy has got equipment which can allow him to see 200 meters at night. So you are outranged. He'll spot you first and shoot you before you can even know what is happening. Like that. So plus communication equipment. If you got frequency hopping, burst transmission, and totally encrypted communication, and you are able to communicate with all your teams and elements, and the other party, and you are not able to communicate, the other guy is able to communicate. So then he again is a winner. You are a loser. So it's very high tech. So that is one thing. So from that point of view, today the Marine Commandos, I can very comfortably say we are at the contemporary level. What can further distinguish between the special forces of, let's say, US, which is the world's greatest power, and the Russians and the Indians, is that there is something called a support infrastructure requirement.
Okay.
The launch and recovery platforms, the intelligence which are required. One is human intelligence, real-time intelligence, intelligence through satellites and all those things. All these are important ingredients which are required to plan, conduct, and execute special operations. And remember, special operation done by a small team of people which are taking a larger body of troops in the shortest possible time, without much of other reinforcements expected. So unless you have a superiority in terms of the support requirement, which now we have, but definitely you can't compare it with what US has got or Russians have got.
Okay.
They are much ahead of us and we are catching up. It is a matter of maybe a few years that we'll be able to be there. But the fact is, once we are able to reach what they are today, they would have actually leapfrogged ahead.
Yeah.
So this is always a catching up game. But as compared to contemporary standard, we are there.
Okay. I think I have some questions lined up on further delving into these kind of the requirements that we have, right? How we can do better improve ourselves, right? But on the first section of this podcast, which is Be Like You, I wanted to understand from a normal user's perspective how they can actually become like you. And I'm sure, we all have gotten a lot of insight into how the special forces work, what are the requirements, what are the courses, and how do you operate. In the last question in this section, I would like to ask you, what are the perks of being into these kind of services?
Okay, ठीक है. So bulk of your questions I've already answered. But coming to the perk which I didn't answer, so if you join the special forces in Army, Navy or Air Force, you get special forces allowance, which is about, for officers in my time was 25,000 rupees per month. For sailors is about 18,500 rupees per month. In addition, the Marine Commando in the Navy also are qualified clearance divers. So they get something called as diving pay, which is also a hefty sum of around 18 to 19,000 per month, which is equal to officers and sailors.
Okay.
And incidentally, this is the only allowance in the armed forces which is equal to officers and sailors.
Okay.
So that makes a hefty sum. Like there are people, when I was in the Navy, my salary, my takeaway per month was at least about 15% more than my other coastmates who are not Marine Commandos.
Okay.
So now what happens, it is, plus your insurance money is also higher. You get extra rations, you get extra eggs, extra milk, extra butter, groundnuts and all. जैसे घोड़े को खिलाने के लिए ना, so extra groundnuts and all you have. So your ration is also much more. We have this ration which is now given by the government to officers and sailors. So even ration is there. So overall, it makes a good package.
Okay.
So people do get motivated to join the special forces, seeing this also.
Okay.
But and also the other incentive is that you have a distinct insignia. You have to have you will have a distinct identity. Like you wear different kind of badges, Marine Commando, maroon beret, black dangris, now the different kind of camouflages come. You'll have the best of the boots. You'll have, this maybe the best of the, the watches, Oakley goggles and something like that. So that...
that is
you have to
something
look like,
very cool.
you'll have to look like Django. If you don't look like Django, then people don't want to join that. Na?
Yeah,
the
exactly. There's a
we have to
coolness
motivate
factor.
them.
Yeah, there's a coolness factor associated with the
Yeah.
armed forces,
Yeah.
and people do get motivated and really get inspired by these kind of things. Continuing the same thing, is it is the shirt that you are wearing? Is it also from the Navy itself?
No. This shirt actually, there's a company called Aero Armor, and they are doing great job. They're trying to make some T-shirts for the armed forces.
Okay.
And I am one of their mascots.
Okay.
So they give me some shirts, and but this looks okay. The
It
shirt
looks
is
very
good.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the mediums through which we all know armed forces is through movies, right? The kind of operations that they show, the kind of movements, preparation and all. Have you ever seen a movie and thought, okay, this is not how we fight, this is not how we operate, right? And made fun out of that activity?
Most of the movies are like that. The Hollywood movies are near realism. In the Indian scenario, I would say Bollywood movies, there was a movie called Prahaar, Nana Patekar. Now that Prahaar movie was shot in Belgaum.
Okay.
And Nana Patekar, he was shooting, I just finished my Commando course Belgaum, and his shooting started in the same locality. And he made his team do the entire Commando course. Not in the same pace, but he made his boys do the entire Commando course. So you must imagine. So there was a lot of realism in that course, and thereafter, after all his action shots, which has happened, Nana Patekar action shots, are something which are just lift off from the unarmed combat techniques we learn. There are about 7 techniques we learn to kill people by using only hands.
Okay.
So all these things are actually hands and your fingers and your wrist and your elbows. They're all weapons, can be used as weapons. So it is used in that movie very effectively. So I thought that was near realism. Then there is another movie called Uri.
Yeah.
Uri mein, by and large, things were okay. The kind of weapons they're carrying, the kind of josh they're trying to get from the soldiers and all, the kind of briefing they're doing. So they were near utilizing helicopters and all this thing, entry into the enemy area, night sights and everything is quite near what we do. But what we don't do is hand to hand what he was doing as a hero.
Okay.
But of course they are taking that liberty of creative liberty, so that people watch the movie. A lot of bomb blasts they were doing was something which is unreal.
Okay.
So those are things. But initial shot in the movie where they seem to have crossed into enemy territory on the east, and the shooting which happens, that's quite normal. That would be one of the ways in which the Army Special Forces people work.
And how about the drones that are shown in the movie?
No, that flapping drones was something showed in Uri was not...
not realistic,
It's
right?
not realistic at all.
Yeah.
Not realistic at all. But we have very smaller, very, very small drones. But I work in a drone industry now, so I know the capability of drones and what is the world scenario.
Yeah.
So that is not the kind of drone we have. Though there are people, research scientists who are working on to make a drone which looks like which actually acts like or mimics a bird or a bee, because what is natural is the best. So a bird and a bee are natural people, and if you can make some technology which can mimic them, then it would be perhaps much better than what is existing technology now. So that is one. One movie which I felt could have been improved much better but could not was a movie called Dar. And Dar was a movie of Shah Rukh Khan. Actually, it was a movie of Sunny Deol, but became a Shah Rukh Khan movie. So Sunny Deol was a Marine Commando in that. And when we finished the Marine Commando course in Bombay, this shooting started.
Okay.
So there are a lot of Marine Commando, my own coastmate, batchmates who did course with me. They are the people who are also doing the activities as part of the film. It was very unrealistic.
Okay.
They showed a scenario of maritime intervention operation where some girl has been taken as hostage by terrorists. And the kind of operations which they've just shown, I mean, it is appalling. That was not, I mean, you don't do it that way at all. See, such kind of operations in MIO is one of the most intense and very, very difficult kind of operation to execute. It's something like, anti-hijacking operations
Okay.
in aircraft. So you can't be showing yourself, I mean, you can't be open. You have to be, totally, discreet, clandestine. The approach toward the ship has to be clandestine. It has to be underwater. And those things. And, once you climb the ship, thereafter you can do things. But before that, because what happens, if they get to know that some people are coming to oppose them, they can just kill the hostage.
Yeah.
So that was very appalling. We as Marine Commandos were laughing at it. That's not the way
But
it
we
is
have
done.
Sunny Deol there, right? Who can even pull up a hand pump and kill the entire
Yeah, but
army.
see, you asked me about what is realism.
Yeah. I think now we will move to a little deeper questions, right? So, and a little bit of geopolitics also, as I think you are specialized in geopolitics also. So one thing is we all know about Somali pirates, right, and how they hamper world trade, how are they dangerous to everybody in the sea. So what is the danger for Indian merchant vessels or Indian Navy from these pirates?
There is no danger to the Indian Navy from these pirates. But there is always a danger for these people to disrupt the mercantile marine. Not only of India. See, now sea is a global common. So you can't say it is my ship, his ship and all. When you are doing operations, it is largely to benefit the entire world in trade. And you know that 90% of trade in the world moves by ships.
Yeah.
And that Gulf of Aden area and the Red Sea area and also the Persian Gulf, almost 40 to 45% of Indian trade is actually going from there or coming from there. Oil and other things are coming from there. And the Malacca Strait. So now, if you say 40 to 50% or oil, to almost 90% are coming from the Persian Gulf and from Gulf of Aden only. So it's a criticality. Security of the energy, lines which are actually emanating from there is very, very important. Now what happens? Piracy is a nuisance. There are various reasons for piracy. Of course, maybe we'll talk in some other podcast. But what happens with the pirates? What they do is they actually take over a ship, and thereafter they seek ransom from the owner of the ship. Sometimes they get, sometimes they don't get. Now, till the time they get ransom, it could be many days or maybe many months. Now then trade gets disrupted. Now once attacks like this keeps on happening, then people are, the shipping companies are scared of actually, going to that area. The Lloyd shipping, the insurance of the ship, of the, ships also increases. And then if you imagine, if you can't use the Suez Canal, then you have to go round the African coast and then come to on the Atlantic Ocean, and from there you go. How many days are wasted here? And imagine the amount of fuel wasted on the big ships to carry all this cargo. And imagine what will be the cost on the international trade. But ultimately, the consumer has to pay all the money. So this is some of the repercussions when you have piracy incidents. This issue has been seized by everyone. So the US is now showing the presence in a very large manner. There are more than 30 to 40 US ships deployed at any point in time in the Indian Ocean region, perhaps more than that. When I was in the Navy in 2019-20, a total of more than 70 to 80 warships of various countries were deployed for anti-piracy operations. Okay. Now they're deployed for anti-piracy as well as the other operations which are against the Houthis and all, anti-drone operations in the Persian Gulf area and this area. Indian Navy, as we speak, 10 to 12 ships are deployed in this entire area, Indian Ocean region. And every ship has got a contingent of MARCOS to sort out, any of these things which happens, which if the pirates are going to create.
So these navies, do they protect just their countries' trade and ships, or do they help other countries also?
So there's an international norm where any ship which is seeking assistance, the nearest ship should provide assistance. The nearest warship can provide assistance. So that's why I told you it's a global common. So since it's a global common, everybody has to now help each other so that the trade is not disrupted. Now there are certain countries which only do, there is a convoying which also happens. So when you say convoying happens, it's not necessarily that you'll only convoy Indian merchant. There could be convoy of 50 merchant vessels. 2 will be Indian flagships. Rest all will be from some other country.
Okay.
But you are going as a protection. The Chinese largely try to protect their own ships. Now another thing is like Chinese trade normally is carried by Chinese merchant vessels.
Okay.
Indian trade can be carried by any other vessel because we have got about 900 odd shipping corporation India vessels. Our requirement is 5,000, 6,000.
Okay.
Obviously, we get from other companies which have got a flag of Liberia, flag of some other country. Our trade is moving in that. So that's why I say again, ocean is a global common because you have a merchant vessel which is flying which is actually based out of Greece, flying the flag of Eritrea or Liberia, carrying cargo from Pakistan and going to Bangladesh, and from there another cargo for India. So you can see.
Yeah.
And the crew of the vessel may be, a Chinese or the Filipinos,
Okay.
like that. So if there's a warship, if there's a ship which is seeking help, you may be surprised to know because almost 20% of the seafarers in the world are Indians. Okay. So India gives the third largest crew to the world shipping.
Okay.
The largest is China, Philippines, and then India.
Okay.
So it's almost, you can say that 20%, so 1/5. So every 5th ship will have Indian crew.
Okay.
Or even if it's not having complete Indian crew, it will have 3-4 Indians. So stake to आपका सब जगह है. So you have to help each other.
Is there a common funding also globally?
No, there's no common funding. What happens? The US has made this combined task force, where a couple of like-minded countries have agreed to work under the flag of the US, and then they do this. But India is not a part of those CTFs.
Okay.
India is India as a nation do not agree to have any defense or security alliances like this. We will only work under the mandate of the UN.
Okay.
So we are operating standalone. China is operating standalone, but most of the European countries navies are operating together.
Okay.
That is
along with the US.
Along with the US.
Okay. One thing I think which less people from my generation and especially from generations after me are aware of is the 1971 war, right? So we know that we won fairly with Pakistan, but there was also a very prominent role of Indian Navy in that war, 1971 war with Pakistan. So would you like to elaborate a little bit on the role of Navy in the 1971 war?
Yeah, of course. That is one war which was, the first missile war was in 1967, when one of the Egyptian Navy ships sank one Israeli naval ship using missile. That was the first incident of missile warfare in the world.
Okay.
The second incident was used by the Indian Navy. So it was called Operation Trident. And there, Indian Navy vessels, we had recently bought the OSA class missile boats. So missile boat is small, about 30 odd meter warship, 35 meters warship. It had 4 missiles, each missile having a range of about 25 nautical miles, approximately 45 kilometers. And this missile boat didn't have the endurance to go all the way to Pakistan and come back. But they were towed by Indian war vessels.
Okay.
And let loose about 50 nautical miles, 60 nautical miles short of Pakistan.
Okay.
And thereafter they created havoc. They fired their missiles. 5 of the Pakistani warships and merchant vessels were sunk in the harbour. Karachi was burning for 3 days.
Okay.
That mayhem which was done, the shock and awe which Indian Navy created became world history. And that was perhaps one of the reasons why they would have even thought of surrendering. Because this is a tremendous, terrific beating. Of course, we also lost one Indian frigate warship called INS Khokri
Okay.
to a Pakistani submarine. So this was one like that, and there was another operation carried out. There were operations being carried out on the eastern seaboard. INS Vikrant, which is the aircraft carrier, they did a lot of air sorties from there and bombed Cox's Bazar and other places in Bangladesh. Now Bangladesh, that time East Pakistan. And as a result of which we won the war almost in 13-14 days.
So what was the sequence? Initially Army was involved in this operation. Then at what stage was Navy involved?
See what happens. When there is war, it is a sum total of the efficiency of all the 3 services. So when there is a war, no element of the service can fight independently. So even when you have a war with Pakistan, it involves the element of land, it involves the element of air, it involves the element of sea. Sea is very important because we can stop the trade, we can do a blockade in the entire Makran coast so that none of the ships come in, none of the ships go out. Now imagine the repercussions, because Pakistan requires at least about 2.5 lakh barrels of oil to be unloaded per day in their ports for their ship for their economy to run. We require 3 to 3.5 million barrels of oil every day in Indian coast to run the economy of a country. You stop any shipping activity there, they will come to the knees immediately.
Okay.
So that is the power of blockading an area or dominating the seas outside the or around the Makran coast or any enemy territory, enemy coast. So that is one thing. Air Force requires does a lot of things. Bombarding deep sea deep strike penetration strike they do, bombing they do, and they also guard our own airspace against the enemy fighters and all. So that is very important. Plus they also land troops by para jumping and skydiving and all those things for specialist kind of operations. And of course, army boots on ground. In the army, you have tanks, you have mechanized column moving, you have artillery firing, and thereafter you have infantry also getting inside, boots on ground, and all those things. So it's a combination of all those things.
Okay.
In case of the 71 war, the Navy had done this, which was, and it was not that Navy was, nobody was doing. It was like an orchestrated operation. Everything was done as per the plan, like in an orchestra. Nobody was doing it standalone.
All the services.
All the services. It's a planning which goes on at all levels.
Yeah.
And coming to the clearance divers, which I was one of them. In 1971 war, Indian Navy clearance divers also had a larger role to play. They penetrated into Mukti Bahini. They trained Mukti Bahini. And in fact, one of the officer, one lieutenant, entered Bangladesh, and that time he never returned back. There was another guy who did a lot of operations inside now Bangladesh with the Mukti Bahini, and he was awarded a Mahavir Chakra. So we did a lot of operations as part of the giving Philip to the operation of Mukti Bahini.
So you can let me know if you're comfortable with the question. So is the theaterization of command that is happening currently in the armed forces, is it going to make the forces more lethal? If you are saying that operations of these three forces happen simultaneously in conjunction on every level, right? So is it going to significantly improve the conditions that we have?
See, it's like this. Everybody's got his own thought process. Armchair strategists will have their own views about this thing. Majority of the world powers have got theatre commands. Now, their theatre command must be having a reason behind as to why they are having theatre command. Most of these countries are expeditionary in nature. That means they don't fight. They don't have any fights in the borders. USA has got no border where they have fights.
Yeah.
Mexico border, neutral. America and Canadian border, free, totally peaceful. So they don't have any enemies who are lurking around.
Yeah.
Russia has got, but only Ukraine, but otherwise no. China has got, we have got. So China has also gone into theatre command. So there was a thought process that theatre command is only for those countries where you have expeditionary kind of capability. India, by choice, do not want to have any expeditionary, because we don't intervene into any other country's internal affairs. We only defend our country against any external threat. So that is the premise. Now the armed forces are now growing up, technology is advancing. A time has come where there has to be shared resources. And now if you share resources, you can optimally utilize them.
Yeah.
Not only resources in terms of high-tech, like for example, your satellites, satellite communication, long-range communication, your eyes in the sky surveillance, drones, and surveillance aircrafts and all. Not only those, network-centric warfare is the ultimate aim of everyone there. Apart from this, you also have logistic requirements. So there's a trail of logistics which are required. So they are finding a common grounds where you could actually club things together to optimize the number of people who are in the armed forces. From that point of view, resources are always limited. And then what happens if you have individual forces demanding these resources, then there is a chance that resources will get diluted, which may not be very desirable. So now the whole idea of theaterization is this, that you form theatres where you have, it's a conglomerate of all the kind of individual service elements having the same combat potential. and overall making a better combat potential with the view of actually, ensuring that the resources are optimally utilized.
Okay.
This, in short, is what there is about theaterization of the commands.
And how many commands are we looking at? I know about the Western Theatre Command that they're planning.
Yeah.
And I think one on the northeast also along China. How many theatre commands is the government planning?
See, we got the known enemies are Pakistan and China. So there are two theatres there.
Yeah.
They will have a limit of, they won't have a limit of Navy. They'll have a limit of Air Force and the Army. Navy would be, let's say, for example, requirement of satellite communication, requirement of surveillance by drones, those things, or even also beefing up their requirement of fighter aircraft, because we have fighter aircrafts also in the Navy. Those might go, helicopters might go, transport aircraft might go, those kind of stuff. Then they want to have a maritime command, which is exact that type, because we got about a maritime boundary of about 7,616 kilometers.
Like
it's a huge boundary. We have chain of Andaman and Nicobar Island from north to the south is about 435 kilometers. Then we have the Lakshadweep Islands on the western seaboard.
Yeah.
So everything has to be catered for. Plus we have something called as our primary area of responsibility is the entire Indian Ocean region, and the secondary area of responsibility is Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea. So we have to have with the capability to address any danger which is a threat which is emanating from that area, which could be inimical to our interest. So that also to be catered by the Maritime Theatre Command.
Okay.
And there could be an Air Defence Command. So there could be, I don't know whether there was some talks about having two Army specific command, one Navy command, and one Air Force specific command.
Okay.
But I don't know what is finally going to be the government's stand on this. A lot of people are not in favor of it, because change is the only constant. Some people who are well grounded into their affairs of when they were in the force.
I mean, people are resistant to changes. That
all are resistant to changes. Nobody wants. People like to have status quo. I think world is changing. They also realize it. Sometimes they have vested interests also. But if you think logically, what I said is something which I is my personal view, and not only my personal view. A lot of people have got this view. So it will actually save on manpower, save on resources also. You see Air Force, we're supposed to have 41 fighter squadrons.
Yeah.
We got just about 32 fighter squadrons. We are very short of fighter squadrons. Now,
how many aircrafts?
Each squadron has got about anything between 16 to 18 aircraft.
16 to 18, okay.
So, and it's not that when you say one squadron is fully operational, means all the aircraft are flying.
Yeah.
Because they have their maintenance schedule now. It's a high-tech machine, so you have to have maintenance, regular maintenance. So you could find out of 18 aircraft, only 12 are worth of flying and 6 are under maintenance and all. So there is always a shortage of everything.
There are challenges of funding also with the developing country, right?
Correct. So those are things are there.
I would like to know a little bit about the kind of dives that you did as a marine commando, and what kind of operations are not exactly the details about the operation, but what kind of diving experiences do these people go through?
So as I told you, I'm also a mine clearance diving officer.
Yeah.
So as our basic role is to dive to a maximum depth of 55 meters, that's about 180 feet, and diffuse all the sea mines. Also do salvage operations at that area, at that depth. If there is any aircraft which is sunk or something, we do carry out salvage operations.
Okay.
So I am qualified to that depth. Then I'm as part of the mine clearance diving operations, you also do underwater swims using limpet mines and all. Also go to enemy area and try to destroy their floating assets. So that is basically what mine clearance diving officers do and diving teams do. Then of course A2 civil power, they are deployed. If there is any cyclone anywhere, they are deployed for that operation. Then there is an element of clearance diving called the saturation diving.
Okay.
Those are the guys who go up to the depth of 150, 200 meters. So they say a very specialized kind of diving operation where you don't wear the same kind of equipment which is being worn by the normal, like what I told you about. Those, since the diving is deeper depths, so you have to use a different kind of gas. Because air can be used to the maximum depth of 75 meters.
Okay.
Because the 21% air in the oxygen in the air at the depth of 75 meters becomes toxic.
Okay.
So and plus also there is an issue of the nitrogen getting absorbed in the body. So what happens
from the water itself?
No, when you're breathing air at any depth
from the cylinder.
from the cylinder, the nitrogen gets absorbed in the body.
Okay.
Now, when you come up, you have to decompress yourself out so that the nitrogen goes out.
Okay.
So now if you do decompression, if you don't do it, then these small bubbles become big and then you might have a lot of issues and you might even die. So what happens, there are dive tables made. So when you dive to 55 meters using air diving, the time taken for you to go down, come up from the surface and go down to the depth of 55 meters takes about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
You work there for 5 minutes. The time taken for you to come up now is more than 1 hour.
Oh.
Sometimes, so and that additional time which is taken is to decompress your body. So you can't come straight away up, to surface. You have to come to a depth of 25 meters or same, which is given the dive table, and rest there for about 10 minutes. Then come to 18 meters, rest there for about 15 minutes. Come to 9 meters, stay there for about 5 minutes. Come to 3 meters, stay there for about 6 minutes. Then come to surface.
Okay.
So you see the total time required for diving, let's say, is 1 hour plus, and effective work done at 55 meters is only 5 minutes, which is not cost effective. So what they do is that they saturate your body with a gas for that particular depth you are going to dive.
Okay.
So once the whole body is saturated, now the body can no longer absorb any other gas.
Okay.
So they say that to saturate a human body, it takes about 8 hours of exposure under pressure at that particular depth that the person is going to work.
Okay.
So let's say you're working at 120 meters. So they put you in diving chambers which are on board warships, big cylinders like chambers, where you have bunks and all, and then you relax there. They slowly pressurize you, and they pressurize you to that depth of 120 meters. And now they keep you for 8 hours there, so your body is saturated to 120 meters. Whatever, जितना भी आपके body को absorb करना था gas, absorb कर लिया. Thereafter, what happens? You are transferred under pressure from. So there is there's a equipment which has got hatches, and you attach the hatches to the main cylinder, main what you call cubicles. And then you open the lid in between. The divers are transported from the resting space to the this diving bell, and then the bell is lowered to a depth of 120 meters. And there you wear your diving set and you just walk out into the water.
Okay.
Because you equalize the pressure. Just open the hatch, you walk into the water, you do the job and get inside, and then you come up and then it's again locked in like this, and then you get onto the main habitat.
Okay.
So now for saturation diving, you cannot use a normal gas. It has to be a gas where the oxygen percentage is very, very minuscule, yet adequate enough for a human being to survive.
Okay.
Human being require about 3.5 to 4% oxygen to survive. We have 21% in the air, that's a different matter, but 4% oxygen if you have, you can survive.
Okay.
Rest all has to be filled with some other gas. So they use oxy-helium mixture.
Okay.
Helium is supposed to be a
non-reactive
gas, but then it also gets absorbed,
Okay.
but to a lesser extent.
Okay.
So when you use oxy-helium mixture, and then you're using oxy-helium mixture there, and there are a lot of other negative effects on the human anatomy when you're using that oxygen. That is a later thing. But when you talk, it's like squeaking like ducks. So when you talk to them, we talk to them through scrambler. So when they come up on the habitat, then we are talking to them. The diving supervisor who supervises the dive is talking to them on a regular basis. The communication has to be 24/7 because it's a risky thing, no?
Yeah.
Like that. So these saturation dives are basically done in the oil industry for exploration of oil pipelines and all, and also repairs of pipelines.
Okay.
But in the Navy, it is done basically for salvage operations, like if aircraft has sunk to a depth of 150 meters, and you have to retrieve the aircraft in the black box and all those things to know flight data recorder. Then we have to send SAT divers.
Okay.
So they will do that this saturation regime. Then they go down there, pick up the stuff, and then get it up. Or through cranes they'll put those hooks and all. These guys will just tie it up and then let it go. And
but Navy is involved in these pipelines and all.
Not pipelines. Navy is involved in salvaging of any naval asset which has crashed or gone down. That's number one. Number two is we have the submarines. If a submarine is under distress underwater and requires support in terms of like if a submarine is sunk, is not able to come up, then there's a limited amount of oxygen there. There's a limited amount of food there. So there are provisions made on the hatch of the submarine where you can actually pump in air, oxygen. You can pump in liquids, so that people can survive. Excuse me. Till the time we find adequate resources like DSRVs, that is submersible submarine rescue vehicles. So those are lowered by the diving support ships on top of the submarine. Then it is mated to the submarine hatch. Now for mating of the hatch also we need divers there to ensure that it is aligned properly. So for that also you need saturation diving because submarine could be at 150 meters,
Yeah.
140 meters. So that also we do this, and they facilitate basically transfer of people also.
How often do these operations happen? I mean, the wards are again limited in the
No,
number.
but see, submarine accident can take place anytime. It is not limited to war. If a submarine is hit by a torpedo, then there's no question of doing anything. It's gone. But if a submarine is in a normal, day-to-day operations, if a because submarines are meant to sail, like ships are meant
Yeah.
to sail.
Yeah.
So submarines also keep on going on war patrols, on
Okay.
deployments, exercises, their own exercises, So there is something happens to submarine, and if depth is conducive for rescue operations, then we need saturation diving along with the DSRVs, divers, submersible rescue vehicles is called DSRV.
Got it.
We got two of them
Got it.
in the Indian Navy.
So China has this string of pearls concept, right? Which where they are trying to encircle India, right? And a major part of that is going to be in the Indian Ocean through the use of their navy, right? So I would like to know the extent of this threat, right? And what are we doing to encounter it, to basically reduce it, and how are we placed in terms of navy related assets compared to China, right? Given at the time of a war, or if they are anyways trying to coerce us into giving up, right? So how are we placed in terms of the maritime capability that we have?
So this kind of issues are sorted out by two methods. One is diplomatic overtures, which the country has to do to ensure that whatever string of pearls which China is trying to make all around, thereby actually threatening our country, that the concerned country has to be spoken with and in a diplomatic manner, and to dissuade them from actually helping the cause of China. But China has got a theory. They say that it's not meant for defense purpose. It's meant for commercial purpose, civilian purpose. They have a point there, but we know that whatever a major country is doing, they also got interest of security interests are always existing. They may be sublime, excuse me. They may be hidden, but they are existing. So for us, it's definitely a threat. So one is the diplomatic, approach. The other approach is to develop assets, to build assets to counter it. And the best asset to counter it is, have more warships, have more surveillance aircrafts, to keep any movement of Chinese vessels under constant surveillance. Today, every Chinese war vessel which enters the Indian Ocean region from the Malacca Strait or even outside from that side is monitored by the Indian Navy,
Okay.
by their surveillance equipment. It could be satellites, it could be UAVs. We have got Sea Guardian, which were taken on lease from the US. Now we're going to buy 31 more.
Yeah.
It could be, long time maritime patrol aircraft like the P8Is we have. Then we got ships which are placed at strategic positions to monitor the movement. So that's the only way you can do it. Because when you say string of pearls, it is meant to encircle the country through coastal areas only,
Yeah.
through the medium of sea. Now, if you are aware of what is actually happening, like for example, one of the diplomatic issue is that we keep on pressurizing Sri Lanka not to allow the Chinese ships to dock there. And if it's a nuclear ship, they're definitely not docked there. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't. So basically, it's a geopolitics, how you play the game diplomatically. And as far as the building up of assets are concerned, we are doing plenty. As we talk now, more than 45 ships are under order at various shipyards within our country. Almost 90% are being built within the country. Some are being built in Russia. So that's the only way we can handle it.
So I mean, we'll be better placed in case a contingency with China happens.
Definitely.
In terms
definitely.
of abilities, we have sufficient.
Yeah,
abilities.
definitely. See, now we also have something called a SCOD. Now, COD is basically a conglomeration of, it's not a defense and security pact. It's other than that, everything else. But when you have pacts like this, there is a common interest which is resting for all the 4 countries which are involved, which is which is US, Japan, Australia, and India. So these kind of organizations are created to ensure that the right signal is given and intent is made very clear to the enemy that look, don't mess with us. We have, apart from our own forces, we also have help available. Now we cannot define the help available because Quad is not a security
Yeah.
pact.
Yeah.
But then what happens, in maritime warfare, it's not only the country which is two countries are fighting get affected. It is the whole world state will get affected. So willy-nilly people will get involved in this. So you see the trade of US, how much interest stake they've got in this area, Indian Ocean region. How much interest Australia has got in Indian Ocean region. How much interest Japan has got in Indian Ocean region. Everyone's got interest. So when you have war, you have to declare some area as maritime exclusive zones. Anybody entering here will be at its own risk. Now that means you're trying to tell America, don't move your trade from here. Not possible. So that I will not say that that is one of the reasons we can say that we are well off when it comes to countering the string of pearls. But that is also an element which will play heavily on the psyche of the Chinese if they want to do anything.
Okay.
In any case, Indian Ocean region is the backyard of India. So there I think we are strong.
And we are also trying to build capabilities in the islands of Andaman and Nicobar, and I think Lakshadweep also, right?
Yeah.
So how is that going to be going to play an important role in?
See, Andaman Nicobar, when you look at China, the only way they can come is from that side.
Okay.
So it becomes like a sentinel. So whatever is sentinel has to be strengthened militarily.
Okay.
And that is what is happening. It's not only that, there are a lot of other things which are happening from the commercial point of view. No, there was in Niti, there were 10 islands in between Andaman Nicobar and Lakshadweep have been identified, out of which 5 are in each of this grouping, where they're going to develop a lot of commercial facilities. They also want to make transshipment ports. Today, the world shipping comes to Singapore to do transshipment. Now, better than Singapore is actually Andaman and Nicobar. It's much closer also to other countries.
What is transshipment?
Transshipment means, larger ship comes and then unload their load in this, and from there is taken by smaller ships to other countries.
Okay.
So that's transshipment port. So like Dubai is transshipment for the aircrafts and all, for the commercial airlines. Singapore is a very big transshipment. There's a lot of money involved in this.
Yeah.
So if they want to make a transshipment facility there, it's going to be a great thing actually enhance the economy.
Okay.
Then, of course, being a sentinel, we have to have the defensive assets available there. Already, there's a command there. It's called Andaman and Nicobar Command.
Okay.
It has got element of Army, Navy, Air Force and Coast Guard. You're just increasing and enhancing their capability. That's it.
Okay.
Why should somebody get annoyed with that and
Yeah.
get unnecessary, threatened by that?
We know that we spoke on the topic of China being a threat to India, and it's also being a threat to many other countries like Philippines and Japan also, right? So can we proactively play some role in South China Sea which can deter them, or we can have a bigger role as a country there?
See, in the sense that India doesn't believe in messing up with other countries, independence. Now, China claims South China Sea as their sea, which is not true. So our only interest in that place lies not to threaten China, but to ensure that Chinese assets do not interfere with our trade. That's about it. We are not interested in anything else. We are not having a pact with, say, Philippines and, maybe Cambodia and all to help them doing things like that. We are not doing that. Our trade should not have any interruptions. That's about it.
Okay.
So that is the only interest we got in South China Sea.
And our planning will be based on that.
Based on that itself.
Okay.
And
And our alignments will also be according to that.
exactly.
So, sir, according to my understanding, there was a recent operation where Indian Navy and MARCOS neutralized the pirates in the sea. Can you elaborate a little bit on that operation?
Yeah, actually there was one MV Ruen. There's one merchant vessel which had a crew of about 16 people, out of which one was an Indian also. Now, that was actually hijacked by the pirates December last year. And then in the exchange of then the pirates started negotiating with the owners of the ship, and the negotiation went on for some time. Indian Navy, which is already deployed there, was tracking the ship for about 2-3 months. In the month of February this year, there were different. One of the Indian naval warship was actually shadowing that vessel. The vessel was actually moving in a very suspicious manner, Because see, all these merchant vessels have got a method of transporting from one place to the other. Their movement is actually generally well defined. He was going in a different kind of trajectory, which actually induced some element of doubt. Plus, we had the air assets on top, which also knew that we gave definite evidence that this is not a normal merchant vessel. In reality, what had actually happened, the pirates had taken over that merchant vessel, and now they were using the merchant vessel as their own mother vessels for launching skiffs. Skiffs are smaller boats, which are fast boats, which the pirates use to climb onto the other merchant vessel, which is going from there. So that was the job being done by this vessel. Indian Navy got to know about it, and then we actually encountered with that merchant vessel, and then we flew a drone. So as I told you, every war vessel, an Indian Navy vessel which is deployed there, warship, has got element of marine commandos. It's a small element, maybe 1-2 Prahaars, means about 15-20 people, not more than that.
Okay.
So when they flew the drone, they realized that there were more than 35 pirates with weapons, AK-47, they're heavily armed. So obviously these 15-20 people who were there were no match to those pirates. So immediately they asked the headquarters, that is naval headquarters from their Western Naval Command headquarters based out of Mumbai, to seek help. And we have the assets now. We got the C-17 aircraft which can take them to that distance. We had the Marine Command who were qualified with to drop their boats from height and also do skydive and sit on the boats and do the operations. So this whole operation took place in a couple of hours. And we launched C-17 with 3 Prahaars, about 25-30 odd people.
Prahaar is a group of...
Prahaar is a hit team of 8 people.
Okay.
Led by usually an officer or a petty officer.
Okay.
And they were all geared up because such kind of operations we always look forward to. And so we are always 24/7 ready. And within 8 hours, these aircraft came on top, and then they did the MARCOS through their boats and did skydive. And when the MARCOS was skydiving and falling into the sea, the pirates saw this, and the intent was made very clear of the Indian Navy that we are now going to assault. Everyone actually surrendered.
Okay.
So imagine what a signal it is. This has happened for the second time in the world.
Okay.
The first time it happened in
this is giving me goosebumps. I mean, listening to this.
Yeah. So this has happened for the second time, and why I'm so excited about this is because in my time as principal director for 8 years, from 2012 to 20, some of this aspect capability was being built at my time.
Okay.
So the people who were working with me, they worked very hard to get this capability.
Okay.
So I'm very proud that ultimately in 2000 we got this capability in of course progressively, but the boats and the skydiving equipment and all, we got it in 2018-19.
So you must have envisioned it while being the director there,
See,
right?
When I was a youngster in the Marine Commando. Now first let's finish the story.
Yeah. Okay.
So when they did that, so then the pirates gave up, and the pirates gave up, surrendered. Our MARCOS went, climbed on board the vessel. Otherwise, they were prepared for an assault, and we had all the wherewithal to actually neutralize them. But it's a risky operation, You're coming from sea, and they are actually on a ship. They are in an advantageous position.
Yeah.
So this was the second time it was attempted in the world. The first time was, if you watch the movie Captain Phillip.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in Captain Phillip, the US Navy SEALs, they did a skydive, and thereafter climbed onto the boat and went on board the merchant vessel, the war vessel, and from there they actually sniped out the pirates.
Yeah.
So that was a small time operation actually. This was a big time operation with 35 pirates here. And so now that got a large international coverage. So now the intent of the Navy that wherever you are, we'll sort you out, was very loud and clear.
घर में घुस के मारेंगे.
घर में उसके. That is the beauty of this kind of operation. So it's a tactical operation having strategic advantages.
Okay.
It's a real definition of special operations. The kind of operation you see in J&K are not special operations. They are anti-terrorist operations. But when you say special operation, means घर के अंदर घुस के and using all the assets.
Yeah.
You use what all was used. The naval warship was there. The Marine Commando was there. The Sea Guardian, that drone which is there. Sea Guardian drone which can actually go about 3,000 kilometers and fly at a height of 40,000 feet and can sustain for 45 hours. That was tracking the entire operation.
Okay.
And then we had this, P-8I, which are long range maritime patrol aircraft. That was also, capturing the entire thing. And the entire scenario was made. The maritime domain awareness was very clear to the Indian Navy. So this was a combination of so many sub-elements and the culmination was successful.
Success.
So it was the culmination point of all the skill sets which the Navy prepares over and over on a regular basis. And for the Marine Commando, this was the first time we had operated this far from the coast.
Okay.
So that is about the. So now if you know now anybody who wants to do take some panga with the Indian Navy will know that wherever you are within the Indian Ocean region, MARCOS will reach there, Navy will reach there. So that is the beauty of it.
And how did you? When did you envision this kind of capability for Indian Navy and MARCOS while being the director?
So when I was a lieutenant, and I remember I was in INS Abhimanyu, which is a Marine Commando base. So we had one officer called, that time Lieutenant Commander C.S. Deopa. He was a very joshed up chap. So every fortnight we used to have something called as brainstorming session.
Okay.
And in brainstorming session, every officer was sitting there. I was just a young lieutenant. We were allowed to raise our views on each and every issue. So most of us were quite well read about the special operations scenario in the world. Whatever literature was available. There are some classified information not be available, but what SEALs have done, what SAS has done, Princess Gate operation and Entebbe operation, everything generally we knew about it. So we had our own ideas. So we used to pull in our ideas. And this officer, the used to moderate the ideas. And after that, we used to work out what are the things which are required by the Marine Commandos, from the terms of what skill sets we need, what is lacking now, what is need, what do we need for future, and how that can be inducted. What are the weapons and equipment required? What are the other tactical things that are required? How the SOP should be shaped up? So a lot of things like this came out of this, brainstorming session, which was not a very formal thing; it's a very informal thing. But imagine what can happen. Yeah. So, and I'm talking about 1996. 1995, 1996,
okay.
This brainstorming session. And believe me, when I became Principal Director of Special Operation Diving, everything which was covered there was either implemented by my predecessors, or if not, I ensured that they were all implemented. And this aspect which I mentioned just now was exactly discussed. That time, such operation never had happened.
Okay.
Nobody even knew that we can do this. Nobody even knew that we can chuck boats from a height of 5,000 feet from aircraft and thereafter use the boats for doing operation. Nobody even thought in the wildest dream that we can actually do skydive into water and thereafter do the operations.
Yeah.
But it was thought about. It got germinated in 1995-96, and
20 years, 15
we got
years.
It. Yeah. It takes time, but it happened.
Yeah.
Which is a matter of pride.
Yeah, that is a matter of real pride. And I mean, in giving a go-ahead to these kind of operations, is it a decision of the government, or are these decisions left on the forces itself that, okay, this is the objective and you have to decide yourself what you have to do?
This is the decision of the government.
Okay.
Because you're going outside your territory. And this can have a major repercussions in the world.
Okay.
So like, for example, Uri attack. I'm sure the Prime Minister's office would have given clearance.
Okay.
Same thing with Balakot. Balakot is another
big thing.
Very, very big thing. That was the first time Indian Air Force crossed the,
Even in Kargil, we did not cross
we didn't cross,
the
but
border.
Here they crossed, and see, dil chahiye bahut bada. To take a decision like this, you could actually have a situation where the aircraft are shot. And then you have another, bad situation developing. So somebody has to take a risk.
Yeah, I mean, even that did happen, right? Captain Abhinandan
yes.
Was captured and he was returned.
Yeah. So these are the games people play.
Yeah.
So you have a strong leader who wants to show his intention very clear to the world. Don't mess with us.
Yeah.
We will sort you out wherever you are.
And I think in hearing about these kind of operations, that is visible that the capability is already there with the
correct.
with the Navy and armies, right?
Correct.
I think to conclude this session, I would like to know how do you see the future of MARCOS, Indian Navy, the role of technology, how we are advancing. Are there any suggestions that you have?
See, the future is very clear that the future of the Navy rests on high-tech gadgetry. It rests on network-centric warfare, where every warship and every asset which is there deployed for doing an operation is networked centrally, and so that information is disseminated easily to everyone, is available, and decision could be taken. An asset which is supposed to prosecute a target will be able to prosecute in the quickest time. That is number one. Satellite communication things are something which are in the norm now, and that will be a big role to play. We'll very soon have orbiting, that's called LEO satellites, low Earth orbiting satellites. If you want to see the image of a particular area where the war is taking place and have the clearest of the real-time information on that, you have to have those kind of satellites. Right now, America has got, a couple of other countries have got, India doesn't have, but we'll have that. We'll have cyber warfare is something which is going to be coming to prominence. Then we'll have drone warfare, which is coming into prominence. So all these are actually cumulatively, going to help build a very well-oiled machinery for fighting wars at sea. And when I say about an Indian Navy, the Marine Commandos are a small element of the Indian Navy. So they will also benefit from this.
And I think the plans are already in place, and it's just a matter of time that we'll have these kind of capabilities.
Yeah, we have capabilities. Some capabilities are in the drawing board. Some capabilities are slowly being inducted. And now it's been 4 years I left the Navy. And since I now work in a drone industry, so I can tell you a lot of things are in the offing by the Navy and also by the Army when it comes to drone warfare. A lot of things like you have now, so like for mine sweeping operations, mine hunting operations, we're looking at UAVs to do the mine hunting. Means it's called, unmanned surface vessels, which will do the job which is done by a normal minesweeper.
Okay.
And they'll do in quick time without any risk to any
Risk to
human
the
being.
life. Yeah.
Like that. So there are, times are very interesting to come.
And as you are working currently also in the drones industry, do you see the capabilities that we have are at par with the world? I know that Iran has a lot of capability in drones area, right? And US obviously has. So are we also building these kind of capabilities there?
Well, there is a lot of effort from, at least I can talk about our company. There's a lot of effort on research and development. See, the problem with the country is research and development is something which we lack. Because people who are studying in very good, the center of excellence like IITs and all, majority of them are either choosing some other profession in between, banking or maybe civil services, or people are going abroad, pursuing their careers there. Very few people are remaining behind. And definitely research is not in the mind. Now, if any country which has to progress has to have its own group of research scientists. If you don't have the research scientists, then you are living on borrowed time and borrowed technology, which is not a good situation because no country in the world is going to give you the best technology available. दारा सिंह ने भी अपने भाई को पूरे राव सिखाए नहीं थे, रंधावा को एक दो नहीं सिखाए थे,
अच्छा
100 में से 2 नहीं सिखाए थे.
Okay.
Because I heard this, my father used to say this, but that's truth. He was trying to have an analogy, and now I'm telling you very clearly that if you don't have our own research scientists, then we have to bank on the other people, which is not a good scenario. The effort of our company, Rayfiem Fiber, we are based out of Noida, is this, to have a pool of young research scientists who will hone their skills, consolidate their skills, and will be of great help to the nation, for nation building. Drones is something which is our forte, and we're working on drone technology. And right now, we have got a lot of orders with the Army, and some will also come from the Navy. And these may not be the drones, when you say technology, I cannot compare with America or maybe China or maybe Israel as on today. But it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Because the kind of effort we put in, the kind of scientists we are getting in now, and the interest which is being generated, and the way we are progressing, our company is progressing, and I'm sure that there are other companies like this in our country which is also having the same kind of focus. Overall, it's going to be a good situation. But in military warfare or any military technology, a country which has gone much ahead, it is not very easy to catch up with that country. But be that as it may, as far as we are concerned, we are going whole hog, and which is a matter of pride for our country.
Yeah, I mean, as the supply chains are building up, incentivization is happening. I'm sure that the people that you're talking about in IITs and all will also start giving preference to these areas.
See, you see IC chip, you want to start manufacturing IC chips in our country, it'll take 15 years.
Yeah.
The gestation period for all this high-tech stuff, no, it is long.
Yeah.
So you have to perforce depend on supply chain which are emanating from abroad. A time will come and slowly, everything takes time, but somebody has to make a start.
Yeah.
So that start has been made, and that's a good state of affair.
Now we have an interesting section in the program, which is going to be very short. We have prepared 4 or 5 small questions, right? And it's kind of a rapid fire. we call it brisk talk, and I'll just ask you questions fast, and whatever comes to your mind in terms of answering, please do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try.
So, Marcos or U.S. Navy SEALs, who is better capable?
Marcos, obviously, because I was an ex-Marco. But that may not be true. Yeah, but
And troublemaker for us, China or Pakistan?
both.
From armed forces perspective, mental strength or physical endurance?
Actually, both. The mental strength has a large role to play in physical fitness levels also. And physical fitness level has got a direct advantage, has got a direct bearing on the mental makeup also of a person. It does make a difference.
If not Indian Navy, what would you have done in your life and chosen as a career?
I would have become a doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had passed the medical exam also.
Okay.
Before
then
I joined
still
India.
you decided to.
Yeah, because
join
I had
them.
failed in India exam twice. So
Okay.
thoda ego hassle ho gaya.
And you are retired now, and you have served very long time as a special director of the special operations. What do you prefer, family life or life in the forces?
See, you can have a family. I had a family life within the forces. So this question becomes very odd for me.
So you can manage both of them
Yeah,
at the same time. People
obviously,
do.
obviously.
Okay. And I think on the closing note, first of all, I would like to thank you for giving us time, and it was definitely very helpful for me, and I am sure for the audience also to know real hand, first hand, what is the experience of the Marcos such operations that you described in detail, and we all got to learn something from this episode. So thanks a lot for that. On the final note, I would like to ask you, what is one thing that you would like to tell the audience, right? Who are working in day-to-day lives, how should they operate generally?
I would say only one thing that focused approach and element of discipline are two very important ingredients if you have to do very well and succeed in life, in all spheres of life. So you should disregard rumors, disregard external negative inputs, just focus, have a vision, and just follow it, bash on regardless. That's the only way the country can improve. Because when human beings who are in the part of the country improve, the whole country improves.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Pleasure was definitely ours. Thanks a lot again.